Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Through the Fire and the SBN Small Business Network podcast. I am your host, Ryan Wickline, and today we are joined by two special guests. They are the hosts, the podcast hosts of the ASQ podcast, Dr. Jessie and Omar Ferreira. How you guys doing today?
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having us. We're excited.
That was an amazing intro, Ryan.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you
was
so
awesome.
much. Thank you so
This is the
much.
first time I'm having to do two, so I'm kind of seeing how this works out.
No,
Perfect.
absolutely. It was awesome. It was awesome. Thank you so much for that nice intro.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you guys for joining us today.
Yeah,
Excited about it.
Yeah,
Excited,
we're looking forward. I mean, this is one of those. I love the title, Through the Fire. And that's really one of the foundational things that we talk about in the Source Quest. Yeah, it's that idea of transforming as you go through the fire, and this is right along some of the things that we enjoy to talk about.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So the number one question the audience is probably wondering, who is Dr. Jessie and Omar Ferreira?
Well,
Yeah, I'm very traditional. So ladies first,
you're such a gentleman. We're average people. We both, are you talking about like personal background? Because we don't mind sharing. We're an open book.
But whatever you like to explain to the audience about who you are.
So basically, we, like I said, we're average people. We live in Florida, on the East Coast of Florida. Love the beach, have a couple of kids, all grown, thank God. And we have a granddaughter. So that's always really fun. And Omar and I are super busy with a Soul's Quest and ASQ empowerment services, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later. But we're super busy with that. We've been doing ASQ podcasts since 2021 officially. And so we've been at it for a couple of years, and we're super excited about just spreading what we do and getting the word out there about how we can help individuals.
Yeah. And one of the things that she doesn't say, because she doesn't like talking about this, but she is a doctor of strategic leadership. My wife is very modest when it comes to that type of stuff, but she is a doctor of strategic leadership, and her experiences both professionally and personally are some of the things that we really are beginning to kind of like unfold and share with people. Particularly as they go through adversity, it's always challenging to be open when you get in these channels, right? Because the vulnerability, that idea of looking as lesser than, we're losing a little bit of a status. But the reality is that what we're sharing is really our lives. That's the main idea. So for me, I grew up a person that asked a lot of questions, always inquisitive about things. So I was really big into religion and the comparative religions, philosophy, mythology, psychology. And my life has been a punctuation of different transitions and challenges. Like, what is my purpose in life? What am I supposed to do? What am I here for? So I first came across that in my late 20s, when that was my early 20s, when I was in college. Had a big disillusionment of life, and I had to go ahead and find out really what I want. So I started studying all the different things, and then I found out that my calling was always working with young people. So my career for 17 years was guiding young people in inner cities and troubled households, but also managing a lot of different kinds of people, and that diversity of experience kind of like led me to a big transition about 4 years ago, 2001, in which I came to her and I said, "Hey, we're starting this podcast. We're going to call it a Soul's Quest, and you're going to be the host."
Yeah,
that
was fun. That was a fun day for me.
Yeah, and the idea is this, and this is one of the things about, and I work with a lot of young people, particularly I admire people that want to be entrepreneurs, that want to start their own businesses, because there's so much negative that comes with that, and so much fear, so much reputation. And so a Soul's Quest is about understanding first what is called the call to the adventure. This is the hero's monomyth, right? We're called to do something great, and a lot of the time some of us answer it, and sometimes we avoid it until it's too late. There's something inside of us that really wants us to go after something. but we are conditioned, the fears of what happens to us, the traumas that happen to us. And we're not exempt from that, but we want to show people that there is another point of view for you to go through that, if you, even if you don't have the answers, right? Because the fire, right, is the thing that changes elements, right? It's like, in order for you to get the impurities out of gold, it has to be put through the fire, right?
Right.
So the hero's journey, which is one of the big aspects of what we focus on, is a monomyth, it's a cycle that we follow. And the idea is to purify who we are as individuals, to find how we contribute in the world. And that's what we both have gone through in our personal lives and in our professional lives. And this is what we're here to share. So in a nutshell, that's been like our story.
Awesome. So you gave us a lot to unpack right there. So let's dive in a little bit here. So
I was
what
gonna
led you
say.
to start a Soul's Quest? Like, what was that moment when you're like,
Huh.
hey, I need to start this business, name it a Soul's Quest, and
Yeah.
dive in to start helping people?
I'll start with my side and then I'll have her explain her side, right? So, like I said, after 17 years of being dedicated to a mission, right, and a set of values of an organization, right, things began to change, and I think this is natural because we think that our jobs, our businesses are going to stay the same, and we are going to stay the same, right? We assume that. So to me, I saw that my value system was no longer aligning, right, with with the organization that I was with. I loved the job and I love their interactions with the young people, but that you get to a point in which other people, they have different values, they have different desires that you do. They don't see the work as what it used to be. They see it as something different, and sometimes we could fight against it, and we have to, oh, we decide to move forward. I decided, man, listen, sometimes you got to do on your own. I was called to this. I always been passionate about helping people and guiding people, not telling them what to do, but guiding them. So all that just kind of like came from all those experiences, the disillusions of my job, the heartache that is like a breakup, when your heart gets broken because you're married for 17 years, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa. So at that point, the impulse, the drive was to create a place that you could express myself without anybody else's points of view. It was just me. So
Yeah.
it came out of that need, that desire to be able to be free and independent, you know and that's one of those natural drives, and we get more into that as the conversation goes on, because that's important to know. you know
And I
Yeah.
think for me, really, it was just, like Omar said, I literally came home from work one day and he was like, and I'm like, what is all this stuff? There was like cameras and there's like lights and there's all this stuff everywhere. And I'm like, what is all this stuff? What are you doing? And he's like, I'm starting a podcast. It's called A Soul's Quest. And I was like, oh, okay. And he says, oh, and you're going to be the host. And I'm like, wait. No, that's not what I want to do. It's not in my purview. I don't feel this. I'm not vibing with that. I don't even know what this is about. What's going on here? And he was like, no, you have to be the host. You just have to do it. And I said, okay, is it audio? Because if it was audio, I was like, no problem. I can do this. And then he's like, it's both audio and video. And I'm like, oh my God, this
which
is
is
like,
prettier than I am. Come on,
that's what he said. And I was mortified because I really don't. If anybody knows me, I don't really like to be on camera, but I am on camera now. So I'm getting much better at being on camera. Right. So for me at that point, I really did have blinders on. I like to tell people that I was really living in the matrix. I had a plan for my life. I was pursuing my doctorate at the time. I felt comfortable and confident about my trajectory, the path that had been laid out for me. That's important for me. And I went through that whole thing. I graduated. I started doing whatever. And I started to look at things like, okay, I'm going to become that faculty member because I was working in higher education. I really valued academia, obviously. And I wanted to give back in that frame, like in that in that position. I wanted to do it in that way. And I didn't see it any other way. I had on the blinders and I was very focused, again, on the path that was laid out for me. And doors started to close. So initially, this platform really for me was just, oh, okay, yeah, this makes sense. A hero's journey. It's highlighting people's where they're from, the similarities in our familial structures, right? The heartaches and the pains that we go through, and kind of taking everybody through that and how they took all these experiences and then transitioned or transformed themselves into living their authentic life, right? Or the path that they laid out for themselves. And I saw that as beautiful. So for me, it was like, great. This is great. I can buy into this because I believe in it. I've always believed in everything that he's presented to me, but it didn't apply to me. Like it wasn't me. I was just hosting this thing. Right. So it was an interesting dynamic because I was like, yeah, but I'm not going through this kind of icky stuff. I'm not vibing with this. And then when fast forward, doors started to close and all of a sudden the veil was pulled off, I realized, oh my gosh, this is all about me. And it's almost like I tell people, and it sounds poetic, but this platform saved my life, literally, because I thought that I had everything, all the labels that society had given me and all the things that I was supposed to do, be a mom, be a good employee, follow this path, do this. One of the things that stands out for me, it's a quote, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't know it by heart, but it stood out for me and I read it a long time ago. It came up for me recently too, is that if you see the path laid out for you, it's not your path because you're supposed to create your own path. But when the paths are laid out for us, generally speaking, right? Because we feel like I'm supposed to be a mom. I'm supposed to work a 9 to 5. I'm supposed to work 30 years and then I'll retire. And hopefully I won't die right away and I can enjoy some of this retirement, things like that. And so when I shifted that perspective, all of a sudden everything started to change for me. And it took a lot. It took a lot of doors closing on me and me feeling like something's not working. Like I'm in this mudslide and it's raining and I can't get out of the depths of this hole. And it was like this emptiness and this, I can't even describe it. It's a lot of crying, a lot of pain. And that is what A Soul's Quest is about, is highlighting your experiences, the shift in your perspective, your experiences, and the things that you learn, and then using that to live from your authentic essence, from who you really are, without all the labels, without all that crap that people want to give you. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
that was a lot.
Makes perfect
that was a
sense.
lot.
Yeah, a little bit, man.
Okay,
kudos
sorry.
to you though for supporting your husband with what you probably thought was just some crazy idea when you coming home to, hey guys, we're just going to start a podcast when you have all this equipment there.
Literally.
But kudos
Yeah,
for you
thank
for
you.
supporting him
Thank
and,
you. Yeah.
and going for it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just, I love the way you talked about like how doors were closing on you and you were being redirected.
Yeah.
I mean, so many times there's so many people being redirected and they don't understand it. They think that something's wrong with them, but
Yes.
God's redirecting them to someplace else.
Yes.
Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, I think what happens is that, and I've interviewed a lot of people, and so I realize that this is I've always known it's a common theme, right? But for a little while there, I thought, it's just me. Something's wrong with me. Why does everything that's in my life right now it just doesn't feel good, right? Like I'm going to work every day, but I don't feel good. I'm working on this project, but it doesn't feel good. And so to elaborate on it, it sometimes comes very softly for people where they're just questioning, oh, wow, all of a sudden what I'm doing here doesn't feel good. And for some people, it's like a ton of bricks falling on you or a slap in the face. For me, it was a little bit of both, and I think what happens is that in society, we're conditioned to keep those things to ourselves. We're conditioned to believe that if I think differently from the norm, from the collective, right, then that something's wrong with me. So it's just like you said it a few minutes ago. We feel like something's wrong with us. But really, that's that nudge, that's that push, that's the voice that's telling you this isn't working for you anymore. And you can keep going this way, but eventually something's gonna you're gonna hit that brick wall at some point. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's when what we call in the hero's journey that call to the adventure.
Mhm.
When you get to that place where you're at that threshold where you can either take, or that fork in the road, right? You can go this way and stay in the matrix, or you can go the other way and go on this journey to discover this beauty that awaits. It awaits. It's there for us. We just have to be able to be courageous, vulnerable, and push through the challenges of going on this journey, because it's not an easy one. And in no way, shape, or form are we advocate. I mean, we don't advocate for this is super easy. Go for it. It's not easy. You know what I mean? To answer the call is to be courageous, is to wonder what's on the other side in this on this path that you're now creating, right?
Yeah.
Does that explain it a little bit better?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, I'm the philosophical in the family,
Yeah, he
right?
is.
I'm the one that like, you know, and as someone that has studied comparative different religions and spent time with different religions and spent time looking at the cosmos and things of that nature, right? This is kind of like my take on it. The universe, God, whatever your opinion is of it, you know, because it could be a controversial topic. Whatever you think of it, right? Talks to you in certain ways, right? So we have a situation, right? We are positioned and we use the word the soul, right? And however, that definition to us is very specific because the soul throughout times, and you could go back from the Greeks, you could go back through even in Christianity and Judaism and Islam, those things have certain, it has a specific definition. And what it is, it's the soul is a coherence, is the combination of all different things that make you who you are. For instance, right? One of the primal needs for us as human beings, right? Because we are mammals and we have that mammalian brain and we have those drives, the sex drive, the power drive, is this idea and this need to belong, right? Now, the need for belonging, it's neither good nor bad. It's a need. It's something that we want to belong to something, right? I work with a lot of young kids that were affiliated with gangs. It wasn't the gangs provided a sense of belonging for them. All of us want that sense of belonging. However, what happens is this: we are born into a culture, we are born into a setting, certain circumstances, right? That in order for us to belong, we have to meet a certain status, right? We have to look this way, we have to earn this much, we have to do all this, right? Now those things are models and they're standards, right? However, not all of us will fit that model, right? I like philosophy, I like learning things, right? Now I also like being sports and that aspect. But if you want to talk to me about quantum physics, you lost me, right? If you want to talk to me about rugby, you're going to lose me, right? Because it's not something that is innate within me to want to be curious about that, right? All of us, all of us are born with a certain disposition, a certain thing, right? It's I love the quote from Carl Sagan: we are a way for the universe to know itself, right? And that what that means is that we are unique in a way that there will never be, and there were and never was anybody else like us, like you. Like your uniqueness is so beautiful and so precise and so unbelievably amazing, right? You could listen to Sean Carroll, and he talks about you are more than likely to win the lottery 5 times in a row, and you all know the possibilities of that, right? Than you being born again, than you being who you are. So you are to tell me that who you are is insignificant, right? Come on, it's not. But we have been conditioned to think so. We have been conditioned to believe, right, that we have limitations, that we have to be a certain way, that we have to fit in this particular box, right? One of the works that the work that I've always done, I've worked with what the schools call the bottom 25% of kids, right? Those are the kids that can't sit still, they're kinesthetic, they need to move, they need to feel, they need to touch, right? They are what we call are blue collar workers, right? Because they like doing things with their hand, they like creating. Now you ought to tell me that they're bad. They don't count for your grade because they can't sit for 7 hours, right? These are things that we do to ourselves consciously and we buy into it, right? So our objective is to be able to people to step back and have perspective, right? This is important. Perspective. And perspective means, just like I said, you are unique. There is no one like you, and there will never be anybody like you. What you have to find in the here and now, because our lives only take place in the here and now on an average span of time, and now of like 72, 75 years. What is your point of expression? Like, what are you going to do to express yourself and feel fulfilled? Like you are part of this world, this universe, these grandeur things that we don't know what it leads, but we know that when our emotions make us go like, wow, that feel good. Because we all know what that feels like. That you know that you gave everything that you had, and when you go to sleep, you know you have nothing else to give, but you're so feeling so great about it, right? There's no drug that can match that, but that only comes from the understanding of that deep thing of who you are, that beautiful thing that you are. But we diminish that. You go to the news and, oh, somebody died today. They don't even say their name. It's just a random number, right? Up, we have there's millions of people living on the streets in the United States. Like they don't mean anything. There's, a person killed themselves today. Oh, buku, right? They don't even hear their name. It's like everybody matters. And what we're doing is that we have created an environment in which people survive, right? They don't live, they survive. And then we take it personal, thinking that there's something wrong with us. And that's not true.
Yeah, man, that is such an interesting way to look at things. Like realizing, hey, like the chances of you ever being born again is like I've never thought of it that way. That's kind of an interesting perspective.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
And perspective is really what moves us forward, right? It's like the more we know about our environment, the more we know about um situations and circumstances, the more that we acknowledge things about us, right? And we say, wow, that was an impulsive mistake. Like when you get angry as a man, you get angry and everything goes dark. You just lose you lose it, right? Why is that? Why does that happen to me? Well, it could be, yeah, it's because of trauma, but it also could be, more than anything, is because you just want to be listened to, and
Yeah.
nobody has ever listened to you, because every time that you try to express yourself, it was be quiet, man up,
Mhm.
you know so even though what you have to say is important, right, you can't say it, because then if you do, you say you're weak. Right? And it's not that you're weak. It's just like, I'm trying to make sense in my mind about what the hell, what does this mean? Why are you attacking my who I am? And I've always been attacked. So what is my only response to defend myself, like any animal will do? We'll just do it emotionally. But for boys, we can't let them do that. We can't give them the time and then be able to listen to them and say, hey, I get what you're coming from. I get it. you know. And then men, as they grow up, they hold on to this and then just pack it in, pack it in, pack it in. And that's why men blow up.
Yeah.
And then everyone says, oh, that came out of nowhere. It's like years and years of being told to just suppress, you know, your grievance. Because it's okay to have a grievance. Doesn't make you less than, right? It just makes you, hey, listen, I don't my needs, that sense of belonging, that sense of security that every single human being wants, that's not being met for me. I need you to understand that. Let's talk about it. You know, doesn't make me weak, but I don't want to be made feel like I'm a fool, I'm a buffoon, or like they categorize men on TV. It's like they constantly have to be saved. So when you start looking at things in this nature, you have to start allowing men, because it's part of the job that I do, allowing men an environment in which they could say what they feel without being judged, and then move on about your business, because we're all about making things happen too, and
Yeah.
women too, and women as well. But there's a big epidemic, particularly when it comes to men, right, in the States and throughout the world. Men commit suicide at a higher rate, second leading cause of death between men between the ages of 25 to 45. because that idea of purpose, that idea of not being hurt, it's like, I don't want to do this. Be quiet and get it done. Right. It's like,
Yeah.
I want to do something else. Why can't I do something else? No, no, no. That doesn't mean a man. It doesn't give you status in our society. Look at the numbers, look at the statistics. I wish I could make this up. I was making this up, but it's not. It's like the reality of what's happened. We're not allowing men to be able to have those spaces to say, I want to try something different. If that, and I want to, and it's okay.
Yeah. So, like, you probably see this a lot with people then, because society tries to put people in a box
Mhm.
from when they first start school and everything. People are put in a box and labeled and everything. So, how would you guide somebody looking for purpose, but they felt stuck?
Mhm.
So, how would you guide them and help them find their purpose?
Yeah.
That's a great question. Actually, we have a framework that we use. Can I talk about this?
Knock it
Framework
out.
that we use, right? And Omar touched on this already, but it's a part of what we teach, and I think it's important because it really helped me, because I've been going through this transition, if you will. I say transition with air quotes if this is audio as well. Or transformation, that's a better way to say it,
Transformation,
a metamorphosis, right, in my own life. And one of the biggest things is that we take people through what we call the PEP framework. It stands for perspective, experience, and philosophy. PEP framework. And we developed this because this is what we were going through, right? So for me, when it comes to perspective, which is the first P, the one thing that stood out for me, I don't know if you're aware of it or maybe your audience will resonate with this, is the pale blue dot, right? It's a Carl Sagan, it's a video that's out there, and
Yeah.
Omar showed it to me, and I watched this video, and people have to watch it. You just, Google a pale blue dot video, Carl Sagan. And that video, all the monologue on this video was so intense for me. And the biggest thing was that it takes you out from in perspective, and it pulls you back, and you're viewing Earth as this little tiny speck of like dust in the galaxy. And to think that billions of people live on this little rock that, for all intents and purposes, we could be hit by an asteroid like we were millions and millions of years ago, and we could all be dead today, right? I mean, that's more, it sounds morbid, but it's a perspective thing, because the thing is that while we're on Earth here in our lives, a lot of us are living our lives just doing what we do. Some people are striving for power at the expense of other people, treating other people like crap. We live in a world where anger, frustration, suicides, all these things are pervasive, right? And all we want is just to be able to live, right? But we don't live by that live and let live motto. We live, but we have to do it at the expense of other people. And what am I going to do to gain power over other people? So when you take perspective and you just back out of your life, and it doesn't have to be this video, it could be going out into nature. It could just be looking at things. I always tell people, I just did a training a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that I said is, have you ever driven in your car and you got into your car and you drove to work, and you got to work and you're like, how the hell did I even get here? Like, we're so in a zone as individuals, as people in this society, that we don't think about what we're doing. We just act, right? And so then that's the first P. And then experience, right? That's
and if you don't mind me interjecting, right? So like a practical thing that somebody will do, right, when it comes to perspective is step back, right? Because when we look at problems and we look at our situations, we're looking at it like it's right here in front of us. So we can't see any other options if we don't step back.
right.
Yeah.
We can't see how important, just like I told you about that the chances of you living, if we are seeing life on a day by day moment, we gotta look back. There is no more powerful thing, like Jesse just mentioned, to go into nature, to look at nature's time frame as it compares to ours, right? Trees live hundreds of years, and how do you see life unfolding in that, from that perspective? Because every time that we step back and we think this is it, right, we robbing ourselves to see the possibilities of what could be.
Yeah.
Right. And so
For
that
sure.
that perspective, that stepping back from that cosmic point of view, but from that nature point of view, It's a reprieve to realize, oh, time is going to keep going and the problems might be there and you still are going to be dealing with those. But what that does is that it takes you to the next step,
which is the experience, right? And so I'm going to say it more on the practical level. He's the philosopher in this relationship here, right? So with experience, with my own experience, it was really just going through all of these challenges and taking that step back, right? And understanding that these weren't things that were happening to me, but happening, that these were obstacles and challenges that were happening for me, right? And embracing these things and moving forward into the last P, which is philosophy, informing my own philosophy about how I want to serve and how I want to live. And I want to live from my authentic, from my soul, from my essence, right? And I want to give back from that, with that philosophy, from my perspectives changing, shifting, and appreciating, and then taking my experiences and also appreciating all those things, and then forming my way of living.
Yeah. And you know, because you know, we have this revulsion to the word philosophy, right? And philosophy means nothing more than the love of knowledge, right? This is not the domain. Philosophy started on the street, just people asking questions to each other. Hey, what does it mean to be a good life? Who am I? Things of that nature, right? So right now, when it comes to philosophy, it's about asking questions, right? It's about asking that. This is not a domain of like intellectuals in you know, in the universities and all that. This is a practical thing to ask yourself, what does it mean for me to live a good life, right? What does it mean for me to live a good life? Like, and again, who am I? This is one of the foundation questions that we ask when we do conversations with people. Who am I? Am I just a sum of my experiences? Or is there something more to me? Am I here just as a person that suffers, or there's something more to me? Like, who am I in sense? And the follow-up question to that is, if who am I, then how do I contribute? Because again, if you take the perspective of everything in nature contributes in one way or the other. Nothing in nature takes. It always contributes, right? So you could contribute as a great father, as a great son, as a great daughter. You could contribute in whatever way it is that he calls you, you know. And again, it could, the degree, it doesn't have to be this big celebrity or be this big person, which is what society thinks that is what you need to be, is in a way that makes you feel fulfilled. I can't tell people what that is. That's what the source quest is all about. It's like you have to go through the fire, through this quest, through this journey to find out what that is. And we could guide you and we could tell you, watch out for this and watch out for that. But there is no 7 list of practices that you need to do. Is about really living it, gaining the perspective from your experiences, and creating an approach, a philosophy of how you want to live your life moving forward. That's the thing that we need to normalize, and that's kind of like what we want to do.
Yeah. Man, you kind of hit that right on the head where you talk about asking questions. And that requires a level of self-awareness that a lot of people do not have.
Yeah.
Like,
it's one of the things that we talk about with our framework, actually.
Yeah. I mean, so how important it is for people to start detaching themselves from society and all the noise that's around them.
Yeah. If you look at every religion, right? Let me give you an example, right? And this is one of the most beautiful stories, and I think is also one of the most overlooked parts of the New Testament, right? Jesus spent 40 days and 40 nights in the desert, right? Away from society, right? And again, we could debate and we could go about the divinity of Christ, but if you look at his life, particularly the events that took place, right? That 40 days and 40 nights is extremely important, right? Because from my point of view, that's the moment that Christ truly understood what it meant to be a human being, the temptations, right? The temptation for power, the temptation for lust, the temptation for celebrityhood, right? To be admired, to be adored. These are real temptations that he felt. These are things that we as human are tempted against, or desires that we need to say no and no and no, right? So when we separate ourselves temporarily for society, right, from the noise, we begin to discover those parts of us that we are not really familiar with, right? Familiar with. People call it shadow work. The shadow is nothing more than the things that you haven't been able to recognize, right? Like really your desires, why you do what you do, right? But the moment that you step away, the moment that you start realizing society, like Emerson says, is a joint stock exchange, in which it's what he wants is against everybody else. I'm just paraphrasing, right? Society wants to take from you. Its main goal is self-preservation. It's not our freedom. It's not that. It's about preserving itself. That's why there's so much fight about what does it mean to govern, because if you feel it that you're just doing things to maintain this structure that we created, right? So step away, spend your 40 days and 40 nights in the desert, get to know yourself, get to know what drives you, get to know what hurts you, face it, put it aside. What did you discover from there about you? And begin to build the life little by little, and moment by moment, that is fulfilling for you, right? And contributes to somebody else. So yeah, that separation, that time alone is completely important, because if not, you're going to continue to feel the way that you do. You know, Society
Yeah.
has its pluses, but it has its negatives as well, and we have to be able to acknowledge and criticize it productively without having to destroy it, but being able to live in it to change it.
Yeah, excellent points right there. So, what makes your personal development program different from everyone else's?
Huh. Yeah, we've been thinking about this, right? We talk about this a lot, right? Because um, most personal development programs focus on tactics, right? Like what is, do these 7 steps, these 12 rules that you follow, these things that you follow, right? And tactics are important. It's important to have a strategy. It's important to have an approach. However, most self-development programs are not honest because they don't truly, we want to detach ourselves from the reality that we have drives, right? That are so ingrained with us because it's part of our evolution. And we try to think that everything that we have to do is intellectually from here up, right? It doesn't encompass your instincts, and it really doesn't encompass, the metaphoric heart, your center, right? That thing that is you, right? So when you start understanding that, because I could tell you, spend 5 minutes meditating every morning and you're going to feel better, right? Go and exercise and your body's going to start feeling better. But yet we do all that and we still feel the emptiness. It still happens, right? Because at the core of who we are, which is our soul in our definition, right? It's really understanding that you are going to have battles inside of you, polarities, right? And those things are natural and they're okay. But if you don't understand that you need to understand the opposites within you, right? You're not going to be able to find the middle because sometimes, right, you have to be aggressive, right? And sometimes you have to be kind. So, how do you balance the in between? Most of the times, we have to work on a default. We either always aggressive because that's what it means to be a man, right? Or we have to be all kind because that's what it means to be a woman, right? No, there is a balance. There is a polarity that you need to find within you, depending upon the situation. But you have to be conscious that that exists within you, right? And if you're not conscious, you're focusing on the default, right? So you're focusing primarily on your reaction to what you think you do know, but you don't know because you're just reacting. You're not in control of that polarity. The idea is to be able to start there. Once you understand that, the second thing is to create a target, right? How do I contribute here and now, right? And from there, you start using tactics to get those things to build those things. But without the foundation of really knowing you, right? Honestly, because we all know the sensations, the quest for power, the quest for, superiority, belonging, being stronger, and then all those things are natural, but you could use that for self, or you could use that to make something better, right? That's the polarity. That's the thing that will separate what we do from most
from
people,
other people.
you know.
Yeah. So how do you get them to kind of dive in and kind of realize some of this stuff that, like that battle
Mhm,
from within that you talked about, to kind of get that self awareness about themselves?
mhm. And the reality is first, if you,
No, I was just going to say, I think the way that we do that is we invite people where we use our podcast platform to invite people and showcase the fact that this is not an uncommon,
Mhm,
this happens. People are going through this, right? People are going through transformations. They're going through, oh my God, what is, like, nothing fits anymore. I don't feel good. Like, or my empty nesters, or people are going through transformations in their lives, and they're asking questions about who
mhm,
they are and where they're supposed to be and where my life doesn't fit. So many different stories we've heard, people losing a spouse after 60 years, like, and now what do I do with my whole existence was with this other person. Now what do I do? Those are the people that are looking. They're looking for guidance. They're looking for that
mhm.
frequency, which is what we offer, right? We offer a platform of frequency for people to engage with us.
Yeah.
And then we go deeper and obviously do group coaching and other formats, trainings and things like that, where we go deeper into the things that we're talking about today.
Yeah. One of the things that, and it's interesting that you say that, how do we teach it, right? Because we do have a methodology that we follow,
Yeah.
right? That we've created, and it's like it goes through that. But more than anything, um, I could only talk about what I walked, right? I know what the pit feels like. I know what it is to go to sleep and wake up at 3 in the morning, scared, sweaty. You know, I know what it is to cry because regrets, because of poor decision making, right? I know what that feels like. I know what it is to be alone, to not have no one to be able to understand like what I'm going through because nobody is there. I know what that feels like. She knows what it feels like. So when we're sharing that stories, we're not sharing it from the standpoint of superiority, right? That's why we don't call ourselves coaches. We are guides. We guide people. We just show, hey, I've been there. Watch out for this. I've been here. Watch out for this. And this is what the bridge is going to go. So make sure that you are ready for that person on the other side or this thing on the other side, right? Because the reality is that we could share the things that we have discovered, but more important is really we've lived it. Like we've done it. We know what it is to start a business and lose everything. Everything. you know
Everything.
we know what it is to have passion for something and then go away. What it is to be have relationships disillusioned. We understand what it is to having to define our roles when we don't have any kids anymore. We know what it feels like to work towards something having taken away and having to redefine a different way. So all those things are lived experiences, right, that are backed by thoughtful research and things of that nature. But the primary focus is that we have lived it and we continue to live it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the best teacher, anyways, is somebody who's been through it to go back and help other people.
Hmm.
Because, like, how can you really help somebody if you've never really experienced some of the stuff you've talked about?
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, again, tactics are great. Tactics are great. We meditate. We stretch. We work out. We do yoga.
We
We
journal.
journal. you know, we do all those tactics, and those things are great. But for us, it's getting down on the dirt. That metaphorical dirt of the ashes of the fire, right? And then be
Yeah.
able to show someone, hey, there goes the path. you know be aware of this, be aware of that, use this, use that. So that's kind of like our differentiator. What makes us um What more than anything, it is our point of expression. And what we do realize more than anything else is that we are not meant to reach 8 billion people, right? There's only 8 billion people in the world. We're not meant to reach 8 billion people. We are meant to reach a certain number that is going to benefit from what we're saying. And the intention is that it positively benefits people so that they could transform their lives and live with fulfillment in the way that they feel fit.
Yeah. So what other kinds of services do you provide them?
So we offer group coaching. We do
Guiding.
trainings. Sorry,
Go ahead.
what'd you say?
Guiding.
Guiding. Sorry, it is group guiding. We also are developing, or we're in the process of developing our, we do have a website and we are creating a membership site. And that's going to allow people to tap into resources that you wouldn't otherwise have. But we do trainings. We also do speaking engagement. He does the speaking engagements. He likes to speak in front of a lot of people. I'm more of the one-on-one, guiding. What else? We have
Yeah.
a book that's coming out in October.
And it's called a Soul's Quest, a transformational approach to life
Yes.
and leadership.
Yes.
Awesome.
And we will be holding a monthly webinars. Talking about these different aspects of who you are and understanding more about the self and the soul, understanding more about that. And like you mentioned, the membership site, it's going to be a tool that people could use to, number one, clarify their transformation, but also use the tools and the tactics, right, to get closer to that wholeness and that coherence that we're searching for.
Awesome. When did you say it was being released, your book?
The book is coming out either mid-October or late October.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, probably more late
Mhm.
October more.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Got a kind of a quick question here for you. This one I was kind of wondering.
Yeah.
What is the biggest challenge you guys have podcasting together?
So for
Oh
me,
Lord, this is gonna be interesting.
Me personally, that's a great question, Ryan. Thank you so much for asking. For me, I think the challenge is just he's philosophical and he explains things very thoroughly, whereas I'm more of a practical kind of, hey, like relaxed, casual type of individual. That's how I am in my interactions with people one-on-one and any kind of group guiding that we do. And even when I'm doing podcasting, or even our podcasting because I interview women and he'll interview the men, we just do things differently that way, which is the beauty of it. And I think that we bring it together. We balance each other out in that way. I think that we need a little bit of levity, and I bring that to the table because he can be boring sometimes and he can be fun too, but he's just very much more philosophical. So we just make it work. We get along really great. We've been together we've been married for 20 years, actually, next week, and together for 24. We've overcome a lot of obstacles, a lot of challenges, just like anybody else, your average couple. And we have a deep respect for the things that we're focused on right now. And I think that because we have a collective respect for it, that we can work together a little bit easier. Don't get me wrong, we have our moments. There was one day he pissed me off last week and I was just like, I'm not doing this. But we have our moments and we overcome them. So yeah, that's my biggest thing.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest challenge, I'll be honest with you, is my ego, our egos, right? Because I need to understand that and this is one of the things that I'm learning as we've gone through this, right? Because we've never really worked together. So we're working together now. And one of the things that I had to learn is that I am not good at everything. I have a really good certain skill set and a very good certain foundation, and I'm very intense and passionate when it comes to like explaining things and all that. But she is definitely more thorough than I am, and she's a bit more detail oriented, and then she is more practical and more personable than I am. And one of the things if you decide to go in business with your partner is being honest, that understanding like, this is who I am. and this is who she is. She's not my adversary, and I'm not her adversary. We are complements of one another. We supplement each other's skill sets, and that takes constant acknowledgement. Constant recognition that is like, because it is two personalities. Our personalities in our relationship was different because we didn't work together, but when we work together is different. So we have to acknowledge the those points of views and their skill sets and who they are. So yeah, but it is a work in progress. But it's all about awareness, being aware. You know that don't lose your shit right now. Okay, it's like you want this yesterday. She's telling you look at a bridge, look at the gap first. She's not trying to tell you not to do it. She's just saying look at the gap. Wait.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest kind of challenge, is constantly the reminder of like, she needs to do her part and I need to do my part, and when we come together, that's when everything comes together. So relax, man.
Well, that's some great advice. Happy anniversary coming up to you guys. I mean, I think you guys are doing an amazing job. You guys, I love holding this conversation with you guys. You guys do complement each other really well.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it.
How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah. So there's a couple of ways. The first one is visit us at asqempowerment.com. So check us out at ASQ Empowerment. You could look for the ASQ podcast. It's on all the broadcast, all Spotify, Apple, everywhere. We are also are going to be, we're on social media. So any social media with a sales quest, you could file ASQ podcast, ASQ Empowerment. You could find us there. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be start launching our podcast live. So it will be held every Monday live on YouTube, Facebook, and all those different places. Mondays, 12 o'clock. We're going to have some live guests. We're going to have some interesting kind of show topics, and going from there. So they could look out for us in all those things.
Awesome. And I'll put all that stuff in the show notes too for everybody to check you guys out.
Thank you.
Is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to talk about?
Anything?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, to the audience, through the fire, it's a beautiful title.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the anecdotes that I would like to leave with people that are listening to your podcast, which I think is something that is under appreciated in our society at the moment, but is necessary. I always use when I do a speech, I always use the example of cobalt. I don't know if anybody know what cobalt is, but if you pick up your phone, right, cobalt is one of the minerals that we have to use to maintain our society, right? Before, when it was discovered, it was actually, the literal translation of it is like a ghoul or something hideous. So they used to, or a demon, and they used to cast it aside. But now our society doesn't function without it, right? I bring that up because a lot of us in our lives until this point, when we feel that we are going through the fire, when we feel that we are being consumed by that, we are being transformed into cobalt. And it is our responsibility to remember that, use that fire as a way to be able to contribute in your way to the here and now, just like Couple does. So I love the title, and I know that you're doing a really, really great job at normalizing the idea that this path and the fire is what's really going to bring you your greatness.
Well, I appreciate that. I was definitely well earned going through the fire myself.
Yeah.
So that's how the title was formed, was by going through the fire and not being able to run away from it.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, we appreciate what you're doing. This is really important work. So
it is, and it needs to be normalized, and it needs to be actually thought, shared. And I appreciate the opportunity. We appreciate the opportunity you gave us.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on. Final question. What is one piece of advice you'd like to leave our listeners with about overcoming adversity?
Wow, it's really a good question, Ryan, because I feel like there are so many answers, right? But so I'll speak from a personal perspective. I think for me, it's really being able to take a pause before reacting, which is what we were talking about earlier with the perspective and experience and the philosophy, right? Sometimes things aren't always what they seem to be. And when we can pause and just take a step back from the situation without being reactive, right? And be proactive about looking at the situation, analyzing what's happening, and then moving forward with it. I think you can handle it in a much better, from a much better disposition, right? You handle it by maintaining your thought process, your decision making. When you just take those, it's really weird, but you take a couple of deep breaths and then deal with it, right? And some people are going to say, well, sometimes you have to just react. You have to just react. I think when you train yourself, you get better at that pause. It doesn't have to be a 10-minute pause. It's a very quick, okay, let me think this through before I respond. You know what I mean? And so for me, that works. It's been working, and I've improved in my interactions with people and overcoming adversity.
For me, I will say switch the perspective, right? And what I mean by that, even switching the word adversity, right? And look at it as a challenge or an opponent, like a game, right? Because life is like baseball, right? The most successful baseball players bat 300, right? You know what that means? Every time they go to the batting cage 10 times, they 7 out of 10 they made an out. They failed, so to speak, right? But you don't see baseball players stopping, right? So switching our perspective about adversity and look at life like a challenge or like a quest, right? To find out more about you. That little shift that's happened to me primarily in the last 4 years has made a big difference. And the things that have changed and the things that happened had led us to this conversation, right? That shift the perspective of looking at life as a quest to know more about me and my place in it rather than adversity, right? Because you and I are having this conversation, or we are having this conversation because you went through the fire, we went through the fire, but yet here we are, learn about each other, learn about ourselves, and we want to share with somebody else. So that perspective of looking at life as a quest, that will be my advice.
Awesome. Great answers, both of you. Well, guys, I can't thank you guys enough for coming on here. It's been really interesting getting your guys' perspective. You guys, like I said, you guys work well with each other.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. This was really a great conversation. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much, man, and keep doing the great work, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, guys, that's going to be all the time we have here today. Remember, the only way to get what you want is go through the fire.
That's it.
Nice.